Welcome to The Perfect Balance, where this is the podcast where we discover your symptoms are not the problem, with your hosts, Eva Vennari, Dr. Heather Kneale, and Leslie Brown. Join us as we jump right into this episode.
Welcome to The Perfect Balance. I am Eva Vennari, one of your three hosts, and we're here to talk about how your symptoms are not the problem. And I help people overcome their severe adrenal burnout, no matter what the reason. All right, so let's move. Who's next? Heather.
I'm Dr. Heather Kneale. I am co-founder and CEO of Global Nutritional Healing, and we offer certificate programs in mineral balancing. Leslie, your turn.
I'm Leslie Brown, thanks, and I work specifically around empowering high-achieving men to effectively manage stress so that they can sustain peak performance at work and at home.
Yeah, and that requires a lot of energy. And what we want to talk about today is kind of comes from our own frustrations as a practitioner. It's like it takes resilience and also awareness to be on a program that's a healing program such as this, because it's opposite to everything that we've been taught that means healing. So let's dig in and talk about that. When you hear the words, either one, it can pop in and say, what you want to say about it. But what to you, when it comes to mineral balancing, what is the resilience versus being aware?
Well, for me, it was I wasn't aware. I have to admit, but I got really sick. I came from the medical community, so I got really sick, and to the point where I was told I had a couple months to live. So all of a sudden, my unawareness, that was brought into my awareness. I'm like, oh, something's really wrong. And so I accidentally found mineral balancing and got started. And I wasn't really feeling better. I have to be perfectly honest. I did not feel better, but I had a pneumonia that was Aspergillus pneumonia. And really the only thing they could do was antibiotics, and it wasn't working. So that was that. And so after 4 months of being on the program, I got an x-ray and it was completely gone. So even though I was not super aware, it was like there were some logic things that were making sense to me. I was like, okay, this is my chest x-ray is better. And so for me, it was the long haul that I was in for the long haul after that, because I knew if I didn't feel better, I did not feel better. I was still exhausted. I couldn't take care of my baby. There was all kinds of things. So I forgot about that newborn baby. And so, yeah, the newborn, she was 2 months at the time I was told I had 2 months to live. So I ended up thinking, there's something to this. I'm in it. And I was having healing reactions, all those kinds of things, but I knew that this was right for me because I saw a difference. I actually had a test for me that really clicked. For somebody else, it might be something else, but that's what clicked for me, was that my health was on the right track. I had so many people tell me, go back and get more meds, go back to the medical, keep going back. And I already knew, because I had friends that were doctors and they were telling me, Heather, there's nothing else we can do for you. So they had already done what they could do and it wasn't working.
That's a whole different level of resilience, isn't it? When you go against what we all call authority figures. They are doctors. They should know what's going on. But when they say there's nothing we can do, I hear that as a little message that maybe I'm asking the wrong people.
Right. Yeah, they have their place, and they helped me with all kinds of other things before. But at this point in time, it was so bad, and my oxygen level was so bad, and I could not even probably take care of myself, that they did what they could do. They were, it was about beyond their scope at that point,
Yeah.
And that's a good, go ahead, Eva.
No, I was going to jump to you. What is it for you? Yeah.
Well, similar thing in that I kind of run the gamut after 40 years of going down the route of antibiotics and all sorts of stuff to try and take care of my body. And I was dying. So like I'd mentioned before, I was on my deathbed in 2014. I mean, the whole year just fighting to stay alive. And it was by accident I found out about mineral balancing. And within 3 months, I was still exhausted. I was flat in bed. But as I've mentioned in other podcasts, I believe the feeling of sleeping because you're dying is a lot different from the feeling of sleeping because you're healing. And then I had all this stuff coming out of my body, all sorts of different symptoms, different rashes. And I mean, who knows, parasites, who knows what all was coming out. But it was such a different experience than what I'd expected following the allopathic medical model, the pharmaceutical model, I should say. So I knew something different was happening, and then all sorts of great changes happened. So I started to be able to think better. It was a big one. And that's a really important concept for me, is that I literally did not realize that I had lost mental clarity. You work so hard to push through. I felt as though I worked so hard to push through every day. I didn't realize anything was so drastically wrong. I knew that I had illness that I was trying to deal with, but I had no idea that it affected my mental capabilities and capacity. And so when I got into mineral balancing, I go, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. Let's give the body what it needs to heal itself. And I just hadn't ever heard that before. And I'd also always trusted, I trusted the medical professionals. I'm going to reword that and say, I put the responsibility of my health on those advisors, which I now no longer think is fair or reasonable.
Yeah.
And they did the very best they knew how to do, but they were restricted to certain parameters and not encouraged to, or in fact, I think, not encouraged to and not allowed really in their profession so much to think about other options. So when I started to learn about mineral balancing, again, it made so much sense. And I started to understand that there were different healing modalities that had never, ever crossed my mind or been in my mind to research. I actually wasn't mentally free to research it. But once that started to click in, it was like, whoa, this whole new world of awareness came into being on many, many levels, but especially in wellness.
Yeah, it's an energetic shift. I found the same thing, and both of you and myself, we've all had this statement of it was months, and I think we've talked about expectations on a past episode. So if we go, I think it's number, like, what to expect or to listen to. Number 3. So go back to number 3 and listen to that one about things to expect when you start a nutritional balancing and mineral balancing program. It's all about giving the body time to heal. And I found the same thing, but you do notice the difference, and you only notice it when you start doing it this way. And I've heard so many, especially professionals who are busy, they're popping, they're doing the world, and they see an article and they're like, oh, this can help my brain function. I'll take this supplement and that'll be that. And they forget about supporting the rest of the body, or maybe they're doing something in addition, or they're going to their yoga and they're thinking, oh, I'm staying ahead of the curve. I'm doing everything right. I'm staying on the cutting edge of medicine by doing this latest fad or this latest trend. And I think that's something we should definitely talk about, in a future episode, is like how to distinguish between a fad trend and a true healing method. And this was the crux of it for me, because me too found it by accident. I was blessed with insomnia, 3 o'clock in the morning, searching the internet with Google, who was not quite as helpful then as it is today. It didn't go, oh, do you mean mineral balancing, dear? This is what you need. It was more like, okay, I've put in all 30 different symptoms: chronic fatigue, anxiety, insomnia, depression, fibromyalgia, itchy skin, heart palpitations, short-term memory loss, hypothyroidism, you name it, I had. And it just kept going on and on and on. And poor Google was like, well, let's start here. And I dug and dug and dug. And by accident, I came across this article that to most is very boring. But when it starts talking about you and how you feel in your body, if you have these imbalances that you've never heard of in your life, it does. Like, well, it makes sense. This makes sense to me. If I give my body what it needs, then it should heal itself. Like, people don't think that way. In general, we as a human society, we think, well, our body's broken, and I'm going to go to the doctor and have them draw blood, check my blood pressure, check my height and my weight, and measure me against everybody else in the world and go, you're okay or not. But that's not health, right? Because our health is not about our symptoms. So yeah, it's a mindset shift, and it's that resilience in believing in yourself versus authority. I think that's a resilience that we need, to do this program, because as soon as we start to have the healing reactions, the fear comes up. Let's talk about that. There's a fear that comes up that says, oh, I'm not I'm back to where I was and feeling bad again. This must not be working. So I should stop the program. Let's talk about what that actually means and what to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very common. You know, you're cleaning out house. You got to think about your body. You've been adding, you could be born with all these toxic metals, things you've been adding, all of your life stress, you know, the way you eat, where you live, the soil, the air. I mean, we really are exposed, everybody. You know, there's new ones every year. So we're exposed to a lot of things. And so when we get started with this program, you know, and I'm sure you two hear this, sometimes people feel great pretty quick. And, you know, some people do. And then all of a sudden it's those symptoms that went away now are all creeping back. And now it's gone. We go back to that, yep, chasing symptom thinking. Oh, you know, what can I do to get rid of this rash? And they're putting like creams on it. And they're going to the doctor and getting prescriptions. And then,
Yeah.
you know, they're like stopping everything, you know,
Yeah.
and then they ask their friends, oh, stop those supplements, stop the program. You know, that's what's doing it. Well, yeah, it is doing it. They are correct.
Yes.
But what's happening is that you have storage sites in your body. So you have your liver, your kidneys, you've got skin, you've got fat. That's where a lot of these toxins hang out. That's why when you do a blood test, even if you're checking for a heavy metal, you're not going to see it. That's because it's stored somewhere in your tissues. But what we do in the program is to help take them out of the tissues so the tissue can heal and work well, right? We want our liver to detoxify, not be sluggish. So, you know, maybe some copper comes out and you get rashes and you start getting headaches and now you're, yeah, exactly. Now your practitioner is like evil.
Yeah. Even blaming you, I feel like crap. What do I do about it? Yeah.
Right. So it's actually to be celebrated. I know you do, and you want to work with a practitioner because they can help you. Like most everyone that we work with has been through these kind of things. They've had poor health, they've worked on it, they've gone through healing reactions. So you want to work with somebody that can help you to get there because we can help minimize them or let you know that you're not going crazy. You know,
which you might do in the short term.
right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Does anybody have anything to say? I have a little story about myself.
Oh, let's hear it.
Okay. So I've been on the program for a handful of years already. And the unawareness, that word just resonates with me right now. So I told my husband, like, oh my gosh, I have this shoulder pain. I need to go to the chiropractor. I couldn't even sleep. It was so bad. And my husband looked at me like I was bonkers. He's like, honey, you have been complaining about that on and off for about 10 years since I've known you, you know. I'm like, no. This just happened. I argued with him. I'm like, this is brand news. My left shoulder, it is hurting me. I need to go to the chiropractor. He's like, he told me the chiropractor's name. You've gone to her before. I'm like, yes, but I've gone for different things. He goes, no, you've gone for your shoulder. And then he's looking at me like something's really wrong. And so I kind of backed down and started thinking, why do I think this is brand new? And then other things like that started to pop up. I was like super aware of it. And it did go away completely. But before that, it was never going away. It's just, I kind of tucked it in the back of my mind. But I really thought, I remember, you know, talking to another practitioner, I said, I think I'm going crazy. I need your help.
Yeah.
But I wasn't.
It's a whole new way of thinking because we've been, you know, the brain has this wonderful way of helping us, and it creates these neurological grooves, you know, just like if you take your cart and you run it across the same area of the path every single time you go, you're going to dig a nice little route. And I think our brains do the same thing. And they go, I recognize this, that's epigenetics, or I recognize this, it must be that. And we're having to retrain the brain. And I think that's a big part of the resilience. All right. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say.
No, that's perfect. That's part of resilience is retrain. It's really what's retraining your brain. It's helping you to figure out how to really heal rather than, you know, the chase and try to put out the fire method.
And it also underscores the importance of staying in touch with people who really understand what's going on. Or like family members, your husband was a great help to you there, right? Because he could remind you, it's like, oh, let's get out of this rut, like Eva was saying, let's get out of this rut and let's create a new one of awareness. And I'm laughing inside because my left knee has been bothering me like really bad, very terrible pain. And I just realized when you were talking, I mean, like going down the stairs like a little old lady, you know, so no offense to little old ladies. I am one, but
happens to athletes too, you know.
yeah, that's right.
All
That's
different,
Shock
you
that I
know.
am. But what I remembered when you were talking, when I was 21, I won a dance contest because I wanted to win the headsets, the headphones for my brother who was having his 18th birthday. And I don't have to pay for it. So I won the contest, but I sprained my knee in the process because I had on boat shoes and they stuck and my body twisted. And I'm revisiting it now, many decades later. My body's strong enough to do that. So that was interesting to me when you said that. It was a good conviction or reminder. And I wrote down a couple of points to mention here as you guys were talking, but we three really ran into this by accident. It's not like there was anybody available there to coach us or walk us through. And that's part of the motivation. We're three in this business is because we want to give people what we didn't have. So we want to fill in the blanks. And it's one of the reasons somebody asked me, what's the purpose of your broadcast? And I said, well, it's really about mineral balancing, but it's also about, this doesn't have to be an accident for you. You can have another way of thinking, a new paradigm to think things through by listening to people who've been down this road before and really want you not to stumble, want to be able to help and support. And I thought one of my first symptoms, because I'd been on all this medication and you get this, I had a personality change and weight gain like nobody's business. And I'm so thankful to get off the pharmaceuticals and get kind of back to me. But I lost like 25 pounds the first month. And I go, oh, this is going to be awesome. And then the next month, I put it back on again. Just taking the minerals, I didn't change anything. I hadn't changed food or anything, but my body was recalibrating somehow and then getting back to where it needed to be. And I believe it was the weight's important because it's protecting my organs from the terrible toxic metals that are in my body from the infusions that I had and a lot of chemicals that are in the air and the like. And I just read an article about, they're talking about the chemtrails, the stuff that gets sprayed in the air for different reasons. And in this particular article, it mentioned being loaded with zinc and cadmium. And being able to see that in hair testing is very interesting to me, which is another part of awareness, because as Eva, I think you mentioned just before, we're used to having blood tests, saliva test, urine test, stool test, but nobody even has considered hair tissue testing. Now that's our primary go-to right now. If we need the others, we will, but we'll have specific reasons we're looking at them. But the hair testing really captures 3 months of mineral data, and I don't make a move without having that hair testing. That was a huge new awareness for me. Not only was there a new way of testing, but it's something that I could learn and could understand. And it takes a while because you read a chart or a hair test to a client, for example, and they'll say, you've been living in my head. Are you
I know.
what's going on here? Because you can literally read what's going on in their lives once you understand it. But it's not an overnight thing. We all studied to be able to do that. We each have at least a decade of experience under our belts. So a lot of experience with that. And that awareness we're really glad to share, but be aware that it takes a while to, I just love that rut example, Eva, just to get out of that rut and slip over to being open to new paths of getting to wellness.
Yeah.
And having concrete tools to be able to measure your key performance indicators. Okay.
Well, and that's what it's like we test our blood. Why don't we test our hair? That's what I put in the thought process of people, and they go, huh? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Why would I test my hair? Well, that's what we're here to talk about. So,
right.
Yeah, but a lot of this is a confusion. We've talked about resilience a little bit and raising awareness, and there's so much. I mean, this is just, healing the body in a way that is holistic, meaning it's not going after the allopathic, meaning here's a symptom, take this supplement for the symptom. Oftentimes, what's the loudest in the body is actually not in the next order of the healing registry. So the body's got its own little internal registry that it says, I prioritize this, which is different than what your brain is like. My brain says, I have back pain, or I have, whatever the pain is. Your brain wants you to go, your consciousness goes, I want this healed. And so you go after that. And the problem is there's something holding that in place here you don't even know about. And that's what is the magic in tapping into these natural programming. We're built in with all of this natural programming. And so the question then becomes, are you fully supporting your body? And I think some of this resistance versus resilience, like I'm resisting being on the program because it's reminding me of being sick, is knowing, am I on a healing path? You can't just ask your body. I mean, there are ways to do it. I teach it. I think we all teach some level of like, this is how you listen to your body. But this evolution of consciousness into understanding your body has its own internal wisdom that we can tap into, right? So how do we know we're on the program and should be resilient versus going to the doctor and saying, this is something new? Like how do we know? Let's answer that question.
It's hard because it's a upbringing too. There's a lot, I've worked with people. I mean, I have to tell you, I come from a medical family. So when I heard healing reactions, when I started hair testing, I thought, what a joke, there's no such, because my brain was just, I grew up with, if you don't feel good, you go to the doctor. If you don't feel good, you go get a prescription. If you don't, that's how I grew up. So when it failed me, and it was not their fault, it was, I hadn't taken care of myself for years. So it's really, it's going to be a different answer for everybody to know if they're on the right path. I mean, you might notice that you feel better. You might notice that some symptoms are improving. You might notice that it just resonates. For me, it was just an energetic feeling. I just felt that I was on the right path. I don't think there's one answer to how do you know that you're on the right path?
Well, there's a difference between on the right path and am I on the program? And that's what I want to get to. It's like, how does a person recognize that they are? We teach them, right? We teach them what it means to be on the program. So that would be a starting place. So if they're not on the program because they haven't taken their supplements regularly, or they haven't gotten enough sleep, or they've discounted the huge trauma of their breakup recently and didn't realize how much it was affecting their neurological system, like all of these things can interrupt your healing path. But how do you know that you're on the program? Like, what are the basics of the program so they know?
Oh, yes. Now I see you taking the supplements, you're eating correctly, you're sleeping, these are, you're taking care of your mental health. There's a lot of things that you can be doing, drinking water. I'm trying to think of some other things, maybe doing some detoxification protocols. That would be phenomenal. Your saunas and enemas or whatever else, castor oil packs. You're right, Eva, that's a great point, because people think they're on the program and they forgot to reorder their supplements, and they're just taking like 2 now, and they've been doing that for 6 months, and then they get a hold of you because they're wondering why they don't feel good,
Yeah.
or they haven't gotten a retest.
I've had that call.
No, it's true. Retesting. That's another one, not getting retest. And you just, retests are not as expensive as your first test, but we want to make sure you're heading, it's like you're on a boat and you want to go to a destination. We want to get you there. If you don't get the retest, you're getting off on every port, and you're not going to get there. So the retests let us know, are you on the right program? But yeah, it's very easy. Or you've moved, and I have people that have moved and they just didn't want to drink water. They don't like the taste of the water there, and they didn't set up their sauna, and so there's a lot of different things they're not doing. So, and then I did want to say one thing, you got me thinking. It's not just physical reactions of why people quit the program. It is mental things that come up. Have either of you had that experience, even in yourself?
Yeah, the depression and what usually comes up are trauma incidences that we think over and over in that little groove of rut, and it gets them thinking of the emotional attachment to it.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause I
Like,
remember I had
oh my God, this is the
a,
worst place in the world I've ever been before, and I'm so depressed. I feel like I'm gonna kill myself. Yeah, that happens at times. Yeah, for walking people off
yeah,
ledges.
I had,
Yeah.
yeah, I had a lady that had been through a horrific divorce, and it just went on for a long time. And she went to therapy. She did all kinds of things. And so when she got started with the program, I didn't even know this had happened. And I think she had something else too. There was like some little traumas that had happened, and that had been going on for years, and it ended. So it actually ended. And so she got on the program, and it was probably about 6 months into it, she started having like emotions come up of anger towards her ex, anger, and she's like, I've already been through this. And I told her, I said, you didn't have enough energy. If you don't have enough energy to finish this stuff out, it doesn't finish. And when you start getting that energy in your body, it'll come, kind of bubbles up to the surface in its own order, and you have to finish it.
And the freedom on the other side, freedom on the other side of that's really remarkable.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, thank you, Leslie, for giving the good part of it.
Well, it's true though. That's true. They say face your fear, because what you want's on the other
Right.
side, right? And
Right.
and we've got a part of unawareness is physically unable to realize what emotions you need to process, right? You oftentimes, because attributed to the imbalances in our body, we literally cannot feel them or acknowledge them. And as you said, we just don't have the energy to do that. So when you start to build the energy, you start to become literally more alive. I'd express it also, instead of saying you have a heart of stone, like nothing's bothering me, you more have a tender heart where, oh yeah, I can see that and I can let it go and process it. And literally your brain gets the minerals that are needed and the balance that's needed to process those emotions and finally let them go. And ideally get to a place of forgiveness. Because as they say, unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But you can get to that place and people don't realize that that's where they are. And I'm thinking another thing, like we all got in, we jumped in with both feet. That's what we did. It made sense. We did it. We were doing it. So we're there. So that's why we're equipped, I believe, to be leaders in this field. It's part of the equipping, but not everybody's there. Not everybody's ready to get enough sleep at night, eat the right foods right away. So if we have to prioritize, at least what I'd like to think, get them on the supplements, because at least some things are starting to balance out in your body with that for the equipping. But you want to go to the doctor sometimes and just get another opinion, but going to get another opinion so that I can think it through is a lot different from going and using it as an excuse to get off of the program. So just to get somebody else's experiences or something like that, that's one reason to use it, to be able to continue forward, to make sense of where your life has been, to make sense of the professionals, their opinion on what you've been through, but to develop your own thought process on it. And it's a way of incorporating mineral balancing, that lifestyle, into your mind and body and spirit. So I'd used or leverage those other opinions in that way. And then with friends, I thought, wow, if friends telling us to get off the program, I had somebody say that, oh gosh, that sounds like it's something to give you cancer. I go, what?
How?
I know.
How? If the minerals that's missing in our food, how?
I know. Not doing it can open you up for cancer, because you don't have what you need to fight that stuff off or keep it in balance. But the other thing is, taking opinions from people who don't know what they're talking about is not helpful. But if you listen to them and think it through and finally realize I'm listening to somebody who's clueless, that is a helpful step. And I don't mean it mean, but I mean it factual. We get so thrown so easily. Eva, you're giggling.
Because I have a client who's a good friend of mine also, and her dad is a client as well. And they live in New York, and they've got a doorman. The doorman he's older, and he's been taking some chondroitin, something, I don't even know the name of it. And she calls me up and she goes, oh, so the doorman, he's telling my dad he should really start taking this for his knees. She goes, what do you think about that? Now, he hasn't done a hair test ever. He's just on like a basic, generic, let's keep your 90-year-old self in some sort of shape. And I start to explain to her, I says, I wouldn't recommend anything, even that, without doing a mineral test. And I'm trying to get that out. And she goes, he's just pushing so hard and he thinks it will still help him so much. And I just stopped her and I says, I realize the doorman is an expert in this field.
Very good.
And she laughed. It got her out of it. She goes, oh, that's right.
Right.
He has his own experience, but he's not an expert. And really, it is about who you listen to. And that's why we're all here, isn't it? We're here to be not just a sounding board, but to give you perspective. Like, you are the listener, who you are, the CEO of your own healthcare team. Do not take on an advisor from people that are not on your team, one, and that don't have the expertise. And that is so important. We talked about that in a previous episode. Number two, who do you listen to? It's just so important. But I think that ties in with your resilience. It's like, how much do you want to believe? I think we talked about that fear. How much do you want to believe that your friends and family and what they think of you and you being on the program is more important than your own health?
Right.
Yeah. And how much do you want your body to function properly? And I think holding on to that, it can work, it does work, and it's going to be a different journey than what you're used to. And if you can get over that idea, then you're ready for a program like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And you want to find someone that knows hair testing.
Yeah.
Like, we all found it by accident. I did have someone, I found a doctor that did a hair test, and it was a naturopathic doctor. And I asked her, I said, why is this calcium so high? Why is this magnesium so high? And she's, oh, you don't need to know that. But the thing is that they didn't know.
Right.
So you have to find it. And that, I find that often people take the hair test to another professional. It's not their thing. That's like bringing, I look at blood tests, but I'm not going to know I wouldn't know what you need based off of your, an in-depth blood test. I know some, but hair testing is our thing. That's something it's true to our heart. It's something we love. It's something we've studied. So we know this, and we're always learning, we're researching, we know hair testing.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to come to us for something, that's not hair test, right? If you have a broken leg, we're not going to be able to help you very much.
No.
Maybe the healing process.
Get the cast and then come.
But we're not going to be able to put a cast on you, so you have to go to, and hair testing, it's not really well known. Just like Eva said, and Leslie, they're like, why would we test our hair? What in the world are you talking about? So we're a little harder to find. That's why we're doing these talks.
We're like mushrooms. We're in the dark. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I just wanted to add that this is a 50-year-old science that this is based on. So this isn't something we've made up. This has been it was a science created by a man developed by a man who really spent a lifetime studying this and trying to figure out it out. And it's also, we've known it as the missing piece of the nutritional puzzle. So it's been an important science, and there is a scientific way to read through these tests.
And that's Dr. Pollack is the doctor she's talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Founding father of our technology. All right. Well, that's it for this show for now, but tune in for next time. We're going to be talking about, if I have no symptoms, why the heck would I bother doing this? So for now, this is Eva Vennari with the Elevate Institute.
And Leslie Brown with the Mineral Balancing.
And I'm Dr. Kneale with Global Nutritional Healing.
And this has been The Perfect Balance, where we find out that your symptoms are not the problem.